Welcome back to the channel. Instead of doing a top tight end list like I've been doing for quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, I thought it'd be more interesting to just talk about who the best tight end in football is. Because for so long, Travis Kelce held the top spot. And before Kelce, it was Gronkowski. Travis was a dominant tight end for years, and last year, I've been saying it, a lot of y'all been saying it, he was washed. He is cooked. He's probably playing one more year to finish out his contract. So the expectation is that now George Kittle will have the opportunity to solidify himself as the best tight end. But it's not that easy because there's a looming presence that has just joined the NFL that could take that top spot, arguably his first year, in Brock Bowers. Now, I know there's a lot of love for Trey McBride. I get it. I understand. But I think moving forward, the conversation for best tight end in football will be between George Kittle and Brock Bowers. Now, before we get into all my arguments and discussions about who is the better tight end, I want to make something very clear because I feel like people pick and choose this argument, and it's the value of a player using two of their abilities on the field. So what I mean by that is every player on the offensive side of the football field has two main responsibilities, every single one. When it comes to the offensive lineman, it is run blocking and it is pass blocking. When it comes to running backs, it's rushing and it's receiving. When it comes to quarterback, it's passing and it's rushing, mobility. When it comes to receivers, it is receiving and it is run blocking. And of course, when it comes to tight end, it is also receiving and run blocking. But what is weird to me is how much people pick and choose the value of a position because the game has changed. It's not an equal thing when it comes to being a tight end. Receiving and blocking are not equal. They are not, and let's not pretend they are, because the best blocking tight end will be nowhere close to the best receiving tight end. It's not even a conversation, and it's not a question. That blocking tight end won't be able to get on the field if he can't receive, but a receiving tight end who can't block will 100% get on the field. So every one of these positions has this. But nobody values a wide receiver who's able to block elitely, like a Mon-Ra St. Brown. He's one of the best blocking wide receivers, but nobody cares. They never consider it. When it comes to running backs, a lot of people don't value being a receiving threat. Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb were not good receiving threats, but they were top 3 running backs for the majority of their career. But someone like an Austin Eckler or Darren Sproles, those elite receiving threats, they're not going to enter a top 10 conversation. So it's just odd to me that people pick and choose which one's more valuable when we know which one's more valuable. But I want to be very clear, you can consider the second attribute in an argument. I think that's fine as long as you're consistent. I think it's fine to bring up that Travis Kelce is not the greatest run blocker. I think it's fine to bring up that certain quarterbacks don't have the greatest mobility. I think it's fine to bring up how certain receivers are not the greatest run blockers or certain running backs are not the greatest receiving threats. Just be consistent, because in today's NFL game, passing takes precedent. So no, blocking for a tight end and receiving for a tight end are not equal, but it does factor into the equation if you really analyze the sport. So I'm glad I got that out of the way, because I know a lot of people love to pick and choose. Oh, George Kittle's a better blocker and Travis Kelce's a better receiver, but because he's a better blocker, he's better than Travis Kelce. Like, I'm not trying to hear it. I really am not. So with that said, Travis Kelce is now out of the equation. So George, Brock Bowers. So as of right now, 2024 season, this is what their stats are looking like. George Kittle had 78 receptions, 1,106 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns, 83 catch percentage, and 551 yards after catch. He also has a 92 receiving PFF grade and a 70.8 PFF rushing grade. Well, rush blocking grade, that's what it means. Whereas Brock Bowers has 112 receptions, 1,194 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, 73% catch rate, 611 yards after a catch, 88.4 receiving grade, and 56.1 blocking grade. So these are the stats. You could probably come up with an opinion just off this. But for this video, what I want to do is look at the tape, because we all love tape here, right? We all love to watch the games. And I'm going to look at their best games, I'm going to look at their worst games, and then I'm going to give you my choice for the best tight end in football. And of course, there's context to how they're being used. There's context on things we don't know, such as their, role in keeping things together. But this should be George Kittle's opportunity to be the best tight end in football. But let's see if that's actually the case. We're going to start off with George Kittle tape first. We're going to look at his best and worst games. Same thing with Brock Bowers. We'll focus mostly on their receiving ability because I don't really have enough time to look at the full blocking tape. Plus, we already know George Kittle's the better blocker. Of course, there's more context to that. George Kittle has the better offensive pieces. He has the better running scheme. He has the better running backs compared to Brock Bowers. But we know George Kittle's better, so no need to harp on it too much. It's really as a receiving threat that I think is going to be an interesting conversation. So Kyle Juszczyk goes in motion. We got George Kittle right here on a cheeky little screen pass. Catches the ball, reaches blockers well, follows them well, got some good speed, goes into the defenders, and he does his job. Good play from George Kittle. I know a lot of people love his yak. He's kind of like Gronk in that he initiates contact and he kind of goes right through it compared to a Travis Kelce who has more wiggle. But that's a good gain, and obviously he's a player you can trust to make a play and read blockers well, to extend plays as well. So definitely a bonus to have George Kittle be able to make plays on his own. How much do you trust him to make plays on his own for the 49ers? I would say they trust him a lot. Next play, let's go into it. All right, George Kittle goes into motion. I hike the ball. George Kittle coming up in the seam. A little quick out route. This is going to have to be a really good throw. We got a defender here, defender over top. Now, this guy is also wide open right here. So that could have been that. Hey, Brock Purdy, if you could have launched that, this is a touchdown. But you gave it to a George Kittle, catches the ball, and able to get some extra yardage with that cheeky little stiff arm right there at the end. And that is stuff you love to see. From George Kittle in this way. Big play player right there. All right, George Kittle goes into motion again. And another thing that you really love from your tight end is being able to understand the scheme enough to put him in these complicated scenarios. When you go in motion, there's a lot of things you need to know, timing, of course. And you're probably, I'm curious to see, and then obviously he's going to go to another screenplay. I believe this was 2nd 14. So in this situation, they trust, now to be fair, I think McCaffrey's out this game, but Isaac is not too bad, but they trust George Kittle out of everybody to get him enough yards to move up the field. So they give the ball to George Kittle, again, following his blockers. Blockers are clean blocks right here. And then he just goes right up, quick little out, following it to a T, goes right up the middle. If you would have broke this, he would have been gone for a touchdown. George Kittle is not one of the fastest guys, but he has good enough speed. He read his blockers really well. Like, George Kittle is definitely a good yak receiver for sure. Next play, George Kittle, quick little comeback route right here. And let's see what he does with it. 4 defenders around him. Juwan Jennings kind of standing right here, 4 defenders, and then he just pushes for an extra 3 yards with his physicality. You can always trust George Kittle going to do his best to get that extra bit of yardage. Shout out. Next play, George Kittle comes behind the defenders in a little in route. Nothing complicated with the routes he's running by any means, but he's getting into good position based off whatever scheme is being used, and he's being put right into the hole of the defense. In this play, wide open. I don't know how George Kittle gets wide open, but he is wide butt naked open. And the thing is that I noticed is that George Kittle, obviously he's a product of Kyle Shanahan's offense and how Shanahan is constantly able to switch it up. For the 49ers to go on a Super Bowl run, especially trading away Deebo Samuel and more than likely trading away Brandon Ayuk, your receiving threats are Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, At this time, I'm curious to see what an offense focused on George Kittle's receiving ability will look like, because he's able to do very, very well as a product of an offense, but not a center focus of an offense. So I'm very curious to see what that would look like. George Kittle made a really good play there, of course. Because I think we all recognize that the 49ers last year, I mean, pretty much midway through the season, their playoff hopes were completely shot. George Kittle out here, not cheeky little out route. The players try to go with Deebo Samuel here. Again, George Kittle wide open, taking advantage of the situation, catches the ball, and then tries to get an extra 3 yards with putting his shoulder down and initiating contact. Love to see it. Shout out George Kittle. George Kittle had a monster game this game. Definitely, you could tell over 100, I believe 150 receiving yards. So let's go into the next game, shall we? So this game is against the Rams, and statistically, this is George Kittle's worst game of the season. So let's see what the Rams did to kind of limit George Kittle's production. All right, George Kittle here is out wide. In the game we watched with the Bears, he wasn't out wide a lot. He was definitely in the box more often. And this is a very interesting, little Rams defensive scheme. Look at all these players leaned onto the one side of the football on the right side. George Kittle right here. I don't think this is a good route. I don't know about you guys, but right here, he did a cheeky little out route. This defender was not fooled at all. Right with him the entire time. And yeah, George Kittle just was not open. Now, should Brock Bowers throw that ball, especially with that safety over the top? Heck no. But in this man-to-man situation, George Kittle definitely could not get open. So that is a dud of a play right there. I would say for that one, I would say it's 100% on George Kittle. Brock Bowers should not have thrown that ball. He was not open. Next play, again, George Kittle was lined on the outside on the line as a receiver compared to being an inline blocker. Very interesting. George Kittle comes into the out route right here. This wheel route probably would have been open. Yeah, I would have considered this wheel route. However, he's leaning right here because there's a space right here that he could take advantage of. Oh, I just missed the play. I'm an idiot. When did he catch it? So this is a perfect ball because this is in between the defense right here. Perfect ball. George Kittle catches it. And he goes outside. I personally, if I'm George, I would have kept on going straight. I'm being honest. I would have been right here, just kept on going this way. He tried to make a play by going outside, and he ended up getting tackled. I think he should have just kept going straight. But good play by George Kittle right there. Nitpicking, of course. Come on. Here, George Kittle goes into motion again. Oh, now he's coming out. Cheeky little in route. Again, that route was not a good ran route at all. Corner didn't buy on it, and he's able to press right down and break up that play. Yeah, George Kittle. Yeah, that was not a good route, my boy. George Kittle lined up on the outside right here. Let's see how this play kind of unfolds. He's running up right here. Safety's with him the entire way. Again, not a good route by George Kittle. And then that play is broken up. See, it seems like to me, at the very least, anytime a defensive player, especially when we're doing a more intermediate to deep route for George Kittle, if the player sticks with Kittle, I don't think it doesn't seem like George Kittle can get open as consistently over there, but he does do a better job being taking advantage of the zone coverages. My thing is that a situation where he benefits off the play calling, getting him open? I don't know. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but this is just one sample, right? I'm sure there is samples of George Kittle beating players with his route running, but also you have to take into the situation like getting open on a short route. Just using your physicality speed is different than getting open in deeper concepts where you need to get open and try to get separation. A little different, not exactly the same, but again, another incomplete pass. So we got George Kittle right here running a route. We got the defensive player sticking to him, but he completely lost him. I'm not exactly sure what happened here. I think this is just a situation. The route wasn't nothing crazy. Good enough change of direction, but I think it's more of a physicality thing. And also here, he was going to run into the defender, so he was bracing for impact. So that allowed this little hedge right here allowed George Kittle to get open. This is just very smart play calling, and George Kittle and Debo Samuel working together right here because he tried to brace for a second. That allowed George Kittle to get open. Brock Bowers probably should have let him a little bit or thrown that sooner so he can cut up field. George Kittle, great hands, caught the ball. Shout out, solid play. Here's the next player against the Rams. This is a straight man-to-man concept. George Kittle with the quick out route. Again, I'm not a fan of George Kittle's route running. It does not definitely not a crisp route here. But I think this is a linebacker, so he gets enough separation. Yeah, this is a linebacker. Let me check. If this is a corner, is that number 790? Yeah, linebacker Michael Holt. Yeah. Come on, George. Or is this Quentin Lake? Nah, this is Holt. Quentin Lake is probably right here. So this is a linebacker right here. George Kittle definitely should be able to take advantage of here. And I think he does a quick little out route. Yeah, gets enough separation here. Not a lot, but enough. And then able to get an extra 3-4 yards because George Kittle is a freaking beast. Yeah, that's 100% a linebacker. Yeah, I mean, if I'm nitpicking for a linebacker that's relatively not like one of the premier linebackers, I expect you to get a little separation, and you didn't get a lot of separation there in his route. So if I'm nitpicking, of course, that was still a good play by George Kittle. You know, I don't want to be a hater. George Kittle, quick little in route. Ooh, I think he's a little bit more shimmy here. Yeah, I like this route. There's a little bit more shimmy. That little stutter step forced that linebacker to freeze for a second, allowing George Kittle to get that catch, get enough separation, and get that extra yards. I like that one. That was a good route there from George. Right there. At the very least, you could say George Kittle can play very well against, or at the very least, you can be confident George Kittle can probably take advantage of linebackers. Now, can he take advantage of more of the premier coverage linebackers? I don't know. Like if Roquan Smith or if Fred Warner's on his team, so he doesn't have to worry about it. We're on him. How would that look? Not sure. But that is George Kittle tape. So as you can see, very two different ways that teams were covering him. The Bears were much more of a zone-based team, and George Kittle was able to get wide open quite consistently. And I don't know if that was a lot of choice routes. I don't know if he was schemed that way. I'm unsure. But George Kittle played very well in the Bears game versus the Rams game. He did not play as well by any means. So with that said, let's look at the Brock Bowers tape. All right, time to watch the Brock Bowers tape. His best game was against the Kansas City Chiefs, I think in week 12 or 13. So let's dive right into this one. We got Brock Bowers. I believe this is him, right? Where is he? Oh, here he is. So here he comes at a, one of those routes where you're blocking, inline blocking, and then you go out for a little check. Checked it right to Brock Bowers, turns up field, and then initiates contact. Definitely not as strong of a runner as George Kittle, but I mean, Chiefs are also two men tackling you right here. You did what you had to do. You got their first down. Solid play for Brock Bowers here. Also, additional context, of course, in terms of play calling and the personnel on the Raiders. I would say at this point in the Raiders season, the focal point of the offense moved over to being Brock Bowers. Devontae Adams has already been traded. So compared to George Kittle, which I don't think he's the focal point of the offense, I think he's a huge part. I think Brock Bowers at this point has already been the focal point of his offense, considering he has less talent on the team. Brock Bowers inline. No, actually, he was on the other side. They also do a lot of double tight end sets. So it was a play action where Brock Bowers comes across the field to get open, cheeky little check route, put it in Brock Bowers' hand, little behind, and then gets a couple extra yards. In terms of physical running, I mean, it's pretty night and day from those two plays, in my opinion. That, George Kittle is definitely a more physical runner and can get extra yards based off physicality better than Brock Bowers. I think that is honestly fine to say. And you can kind of tell. George Kittle's a beast. What do you expect? So this is Brock Bowers lined up on the outside with a corner on him. He goes out, then he goes in. Aiden already throws the ball. I'm be honest. And yeah, that was an incomplete. I don't know how much. I mean, Brock Bowers did not get open by any means here, but also the timing of that throw from Aiden O'Connell, I just was not a fan of there. I'm be honest. So yeah, that was just not a good play. Right here, Brock Bowers going up the seam, does an out route on Nick Bolton, who is a pretty decent coverage linebacker, I would say. Aiden O'Connell throws it low and out, and Brock Bowers has to go back to get a ball. Great tracking from Brock, great catch from Brock. Shout out Brock. I thought that was a good play from him. So this play is a play action screen for the tight end, or it was intended to be. I don't know what happened. Brock Bowers probably went out a little bit too early. I'm not exactly sure what this play was. This defender never bit, and if it was just not going to work here. That was probably on the play calling and Brock Bowers. I don't know exactly what happened. That was an ugly play. Shout out the Raiders. You're going to say that a lot compared to the 49ers. I think it's night and day. So Brock Bowers went in motion. Had a lot of receivers do hedges, forcing them to kind of take the attention. That allowed Brock Bowers to get out in the check. And again, not a good throw. He had to reach out to get this ball, and then it caused him to go off balance, but he still caught it, was able to get his balance, and still get that extra yard. Shout out Brock Bowers for that one. I think Brock Bowers is here. Sometimes I can't tell him and Michael Mayer. I mean, they both wear 80s, and they're both big white dudes, so it's hard to tell. But they're both out wide in the receiver position. Ooh, okay, so that was Brock out there. Okay. Oh my God, my thing is spazzing. So this is Brock Bowers out here. This is against Trent McDuffie, one of the best cornerbacks in football. Trent, obviously a smaller dude, so what does Aiden do? Throw it up to Brock Bowers with Trent on his heel, and Brock with the amazing catch and pass interference. One thing that I could say that more than likely Brock already has over George Kittle is in these contested catch situations. I think Brock is better than George already, and no shade to George by any means, but I think Brock just has a little bit more flexibility and acrobatics to make these contested catching situations. In terms of big body catching situations, George Kittle is pretty solid, but this one is, you just have to definitely contort your body and be in the right angle, and also one-handed this. So shout out Brock Bowers for that play right there. Also shout out Aiden O'Connell for putting it in the one place he can get that as well. Like the ball, we got Brock right here again. Aiden throws it super soon. I don't even, what was that? Again, just not a good play, bro. The Raiders offense, he throws it, I think he throws it behind too. It's like, yeah, I think the timing's a bit off. Brock couldn't also get a separation. Drew Tranquil was on that stuff, so he was on that. I think one advantage you can give George Kittle over Brock Bowers is the Chiefs are a different defense. They can run very complex schemes. Their players are very physical. But the teams that I saw play up against George Kittle, none of them tried to press him at the line. And I think George Kittle is just more of a physical presence compared to a Brock Bowers, which you probably be a little bit more physical to push him off his line to not allow him to get open. So I think that's definitely something that you can give the edge to George Kittle. This is really good play from Brock Bowers. So Brock Bowers goes right, gets skinny, goes right up the seam, right in the middle, comes across the field, makes a play on the defender, and scores a touchdown with another defender right on him. In these close battles where defensive players on him, Brock Bowers is making the play that counts. You got to shout out him for that. There's the next play. Brock Bowers right here. Nobody's open. Good blocking. And he decided to go with his safety net. Brock Bowers with the defender right on him the entire time. He throws it. Brock Bowers putting the feet down, catching it at the edge with Drew Tranquil all over him. That is a catch. All right, next play. Brock Bowers is out on motion. The ball is hiked. You missed it, but the thing is lagging a little bit. But yeah, it was just a cheeky little check route. Nothing too crazy to see there. Fourth quarter, almost done with this game. Looks like Brock going on in motion. Ball is hiked. Fake a little screen, block, check. You put the ball in Brock Bowers' hands. What can he do? And he's not really able to kind of create anything. I will say he doesn't have the wiggle to really make these guys miss. He gets some extra yardage, but he's not like George Kittle where he can kind of force those extra yardage. So that's probably something he needs to add to his game. And to be fair, the Chiefs are one of the best tackling teams in football. So I don't know if that's just the Chiefs are just able to tackle him and become more physical, because Nick Bolton's also a big dude. Hard to say. Hard to say. Next play, Bron Bowers goes into motion, hikes the ball, cheeky little screen play. It gets knocked down, not turnover, an incomplete pass. All right, this is clutch time situation. The Raiders have a strong chance to beat the Chiefs in this game right here. 1 minute left in the fourth quarter, and what does Aiden O'Connell do? He goes to his best receiving threat. You got Bron Bowers out here, just got easy, simple in route. The player is just playing super off for some reason. Bron Bowers makes the catch, gets an extra 1 yard gain here. And that is the last of his game against the Chiefs. I think he played very, very well. I think in like what I can tell, his biggest strengths are being able to be physical and being able to play, obviously have great hands. In these contested catching situations, he's able to take advantage as well. I think he definitely has that over George Kittle. His route running was nothing spectacular by any means. But I do think he was doing a good job so far. Let's watch the last game, but I feel like we can watch the last game, but actually I'm going to end it now because I feel like I've got enough knowledge from that game in particular. Now, it was against the Chiefs, but showing the worst game is just going to probably highlight things that I came out of this game finding out. Now, this might arguably not be his best game, even though in terms of statistically, this was his best game. I would say as of right now, watching the tape from George Kittle's best game, George Kittle's worst game, and Bron Bowers' best game, I don't need to watch his worst game. I think it's fair to say at this point that Bron Bowers is not there yet. Now, I think it's very possible he gets there with better quarterback play, with better scheming to allow him to take advantage of certain tools he has. But like George Kittle obviously is a better blocker, but as receiving threats, Bron Bowers distinguishes himself to be blatantly better than George Kittle compared to like a Travis Kelce. To be fair, he's a rookie, but Bron Bowers is definitely getting there. He's just figuring out the game. I do think he has a little bit more wiggle than George Kittle. I think in contested catching situations, he's better than George Kittle. But George Kittle is definitely, as of right now, a better yak guy. Bron Bowers is not the most physical runner, but he's a solid physical runner. And right now, I think from what I can tell, George Kittle is a bit better in finding the soft spots of zones. And I'm still unsure if it's Shanahan or him, but I think it's him. For some of these zone spots he was finding in one of the games was very good, wide open. And again, to be fair, Bron Bowers is in the worst situation. Do I think that Bron Bowers can develop the skill set to be better than George Kittle at some point soon? Hard to say, really hard to say, unless he really develops his route running game to get himself open for plays and really develops, I would say, finding soft spots in certain defensive coverages. Now, again, maybe this was just a situation where the Chiefs knew how to defend him, but he still dominated in the game, right? He still had over 120 receiving yards in this game. The Raiders could have won the game if Aiden O'Connell didn't fumble, of course. Right now, George Kittle's the better tight end, but very soon, Bron Bowers will triumph over George Kittle as the best tight end in football. And I do think Bron Bowers has much more responsibility and defenses are more focused on him. So I think this upcoming year, with a new scheme under Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and more responsibility for George Kittle, I think we'll be able to find out really soon who the best tight end in football is. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Like and subscribe. That said, you have a good one. Let me know who you think is the best tight end. Take care and peace.